Greetings and welcome to the inaugural episode of Keith Morris at the Movies. Today I'm going to review the motion picture American Fiction. This movie is the first movie directed and written by Cord Jefferson. Cord Jefferson was born in 1982 in Tucson, Arizona. Cord graduated from William and Mary University in Williamsburg, Virginia. That kind of makes him my brother from another mother. I graduated from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, though I attended Norfolk State University, which is down the street from there in Norfolk, and that makes me a Spartan for life. Behold the green and gold, go Spartans. Another interesting fact about the movie is the star is Jeffrey Wright, and Jeffrey Wright has roots in Newport News, Virginia. So if you look at Newport News and you look at Williamsburg, they're on what's called the Virginia Peninsula. And it includes another place that has a historical HBCU or an HBCU, and it is called Hampton University, the Pirates. And shout out to my son who's a freshman there, studying psychology. And so, and you look at that area, it's part of another area that used to be called Tidewater. It's now Hampton Roads down in Virginia. So just some things I wanted to bring out there. And that begs the question when we talk about HBCUs and Hampton U, HU. What is the real HU? Is it Hampton University, the Pirates, or is it Howard University, the Bison? Let me know in the comments. I'm a little confused. I don't know. So, it's a little off topic, and I do apologize for that. I know what I'm doing. It took me a while to see this movie. Why? Why did it take you so long? Because it wasn't showing near me. And that's crazy because I live in Prince George's County, Maryland, the DMV. And the Magic Johnson Theater is my go-to theater in Largo, Maryland. It's 5 minutes from me. So I figured, American Fiction is getting a lot of buzz. It's starring Jeffrey Wright. It's written by Cord Jefferson. It's talking about issues of stereotypes and that sort of thing in Black movies and being typecasted, so to speak, put in a box. So, the subject matter is right. And Largo is 87% Black or African American. So I decided I was going to wait. It's got to come here, right? No, I waited, and I waited, and I waited. It never came. It still hasn't come. So now I have a dilemma. Well, let me get back to Magic Johnson Theater, my go-to. What was showing at Magic Johnson Theater? If you're not going to show American Fiction, they show Beyonce's movie on blast. And I'm telling you, multiple rooms at the same time, simultaneously. It was like one was starting, the other one was ending, and the other one was still going. And so it's like, what in the world are you trying to get all that money from? And I mean, I'm not a Beyonce fan. I like some of her music. I'm happy for her. But man, it just seemed like they could have dedicated one screen to see American Fiction, And Beehive, don't try it. Don't come for me. If I don't send for you, don't come. I got something for you. No, I don't want that smoke. Leave me alone. So, so that begs another question. Where can I go see this movie? Well, now I got to search. Now I can't go 5 miles. I got to go a little further out. So it was showing in Northern Virginia. Do I want to travel across the bridge and deal with traffic? Nah. Showing in Washington, D.C., downtown or Georgetown. I don't know, showing in Montgomery County. Yeah, so do I want to go to Bethesda? Do I want to go to Silver Spring? It's showing all the way in Hagerstown. A good friend of mine saw it there in Hagerstown, Maryland. Hagerstown. And Hagerstown, for you don't know, is only 22% Black or African American. They showed it. So, I settled on going to Annapolis, and I shouldn't say settled because Annapolis is not too far from me, and the theater, the Landmark Theater in Annapolis, is a nice little spot. It might be my go-to when I'm not going to Magic Johnson. That could be my other go-to because they seems like an artsy type place. It's real small, real intimate. For those of you who are partakers, they sell beer and wine in the movie theater. So shout out to the Landmark, and it was showing in Landmark in DC too. So shout out to the Landmark. I apologize for my rant, for going off topic, but that is how we do things here at KeithMorris at the Movies. So coming after this following brief announcement will be my review of American Fiction. Welcome back. American Fiction is based on a book, Erasure. And Erasure was written by Percival Everett. Erasure was published in 2001. Mr. Everett was tired of being put into that same box concerning what was expected of him to write. So he invented a character and named him Thelonious Ellison, aka Monk. It was a play on Thelonious Monk, who's the great composer, musician, pianist, jazz, and Ralph Ellison, a writer from the Harlem Renaissance, a writer of the novel Invisible Man. So Cord Jefferson was going through something similar. He was trained in journalism and was a journalist, and every time something would happen in the community involving a racial incident such as Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown, they would tap him. Hey, why don't you cover this? Why don't you write on this? And he said, what more can I say? What can I say differently than that hasn't been said when things like this happened in the past? It happened back when Frederick Douglass was writing. He wrote on this, so what more can be said on it? And so he got a little frustrated and said, you know what? I'm going to grab my bags, pack my bags, and I'm going to Hollywood. So he went to Hollywood because he figured I could write fiction. I could create my own characters. I don't have to be put in a box. But he found soon that all the projects he was pitching, everybody came back with, why don't you? They tried to put him back in that same black box. And so he read Erasure in 2020. And after reading that, he decided to write a novel on that, based on that. And the rest is history. That's how we got American Fiction. Now, American Fiction stars Jeffrey Wright. And Jeffrey Wright, who plays Monk, is a college professor in Los Angeles. He is also a writer, and Monk is an academic and intellectual, if you will, who wants to be taken serious. His books aren't selling, and his newer work is not even being published. His agent, Arthur, who's played by John Ortiz, tells him he's being rejected because the publishers wanted something more black. That's right, you heard it, more black from him. And this to him, man of his stature, of his academic prowess, is insulting to him. He's the type of person who tries not to see color or race. An incident happens and a school sends him away on a sabbatical to get away, and they want him to attend a book selling event in Boston. And it works out well because Mark is from Boston and he's having a family situation involving his mother's ailing health. So it's a way of him being able to knock out two birds with one stone. So Mark goes to Boston. And so Monk goes to Boston, meets with his sister, um, Lisa Ellison, played by Tracy Ellis Ross. And Jeffrey and Tracy are wonderful together. They pop off the screen. And Lisa, who Tracy portrays, is very funny, hilarious. And their banter reminds me of the banter that went on between my sister and me growing up. I have an older sister. And as always, your sister always gets the best of you. She gets the best laugh, and the last laugh, and he who laughs last laughs best. Um, Lisa has stepped up and has been taking care of their mother, who's played by Leslie Uggams. How about that? A blast from the past. And she needs help. She needs her brothers to help her out. And so they have another brother. His name is Dr. Clifford Ellison, played by Sterling K. Brown. Cliff is not Randall from This Is Us. He's not crying on every scene. And I don't know, how does he do that with the tears flowing? Anyway, telling corny jokes. I mean, I do that. We have something in common there. We're trying to run to maintain his sanctity, his mental capacity. This character that he plays is off the hook. So Sterling K. Brown certainly shows his acting chops. He shows his range with this character, and in that pool scene with him and Monk, and it's hilarious. You'll enjoy it. I'm not going to spoil it any further. So Monk attends this book fair to promote his book, and while there, he's on a panel, and the panel is small and mostly empty. And he's wondering, where are all the people? And he asks another panelist, and the panelist looks at him and says, "Hey, Tara Golden is here." And she's played by Issa Rae. And she's in another room, and she's got a number one hot seller. Excuse me. So curious, he goes to check her out, he meaning Monk. So Centera's in this auditorium, and it's full, and it's huge and lively, and the book she's written has taken everyone by storm. The name of the book is called We Lives in the Ghetto. So she reads an excerpt from her book, and the crowd goes crazy. At least one woman gives her a standing ovation, stands up, and Monk is disgusted. To him, this book is a work pandering to the worst stereotypes of blacks and African American people. Monk is insulted because he's writing this great work that's not literary work, that's intellectual, that's professional, and it's not being published. While this trash is not only being published, it's selling. So he decides to write his own troll book. He'll show them, and this was not just a joke to him, but he wanted to throw some smoke at the publishers. So the book is simple as it has all the negative stereotypes of any African American that you could think of. His agent reads it and says, "Hey, it's not wise to go send this." And Mark is like, "It's fine. We're using a pseudonym. We're using a fake name, Stag Lee." So much to the chagrin of the agent of Monk, the book sells, and it sells big. It's a hit. And the book gets so much hype, they want to make a movie out of it. And Monk says, "The dumber thing I write, the more money I make." So there's a scene in the book. There was a scene where Monk's book is discussed with Centera. And Centera has no idea that Monk is the real writer, because remember, he's using a ghost name, a pseudonym. And she goes in. She thinks the book depicts people in the worst negative light. She thinks it's trash. It's pandering to white people who want to think a certain way about black people. And this is amusing to Monk because it's the exact same way he felt about her book. And he asked her, what's the difference between his book and hers? And it's so funny. It reminds me, the way they go back, and that's probably one of my favorite scenes in not only the movie, but probably in any movie, the way that they looked at each other, and just, it was wonderful. They did good work together. And it's funny because it kind of reminds me of, what's going on with affirmative action. Clarence Thomas used it to go to college, go to law school, made it all the way to the Supreme Court as a justice. And now, since he's reaped all the benefits of affirmative action, he says, no, let me pull this rug up from under you behind me. I'm a gatekeeper. I'm going to dismantle it. It's crazy. But nevertheless, I love the scene and the interplay between Jeffrey Wright and Issa Rae. To me, there are three plots in this movie. Monk is a black professional navigating through the landmines to save his career. And he's dedicated his life to his work. And it's not panning out the way that he thinks it should. And many black people who are in these so-called white spaces run through a similar dilemma. So I could draw parallels with him in terms of that. I'm sure a lot of other people, professional, can also, that you're trying to navigate through a space, and sometimes those stereotypes are already put on you. You're trying to break out of that box. At the same token, Monk is not the type of person to compromise who he is, and that turns out to be one of the things that hold him back in his career, I believe. This second plot is the Ellison family dynamic, the black family. It's love in a family between siblings and dealing with a traumatic situation involving a loved one, in this case, their mother, who's going through a health crisis, a health situation, is elderly. And then there's black love. Who doesn't love black love? Monk has a romance with Coraline, played by Erica Alexander. You might know her as Maxine from Living Single, and they're wonderful together. I'd like to see more of Erica Alexander. I think she's great. She's phenomenal in this movie as well. There's also a love interest between the housekeeper and the security guard. So, those are the three plots that I saw in this movie. In conclusion, I like to say I give this movie 5 fat fingers. That's 10, but one for each hand. I love the writing that Cord Jefferson did in this book, in this piece. The dialogue and character play was wonderful. He used a minimalist approach. Kind of reminded me of an August Wilson play, just the way that a lot of it took place in one location, and not a lot of flair. But I think it worked in this case because you had such dynamic characters and actors and their lines and their dialogue, and that's where the focus was. Anything else may have distracted from that. I love this movie. It's easily one of my all-time favorites. If you've had a chance to see it, please put in the comments what you thought about it. I'd love to hear about that. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. For me, this movie is jazz, baby. It may not be for everybody, but there's something for everyone. That's it for me. That's all she wrote. The keyboard broke. Peace. I'm out.